All right, there is so much to get to about the current state of the Boise State football program and, of course, the future as well. Most of us are more and as concerned about the present. I think there's a lot of curiosity in terms of how did we get here? And then most of the focus is how's it going to be fixed moving forward? Let me put it to you this way from my vantage point. None of us lose or gain weight overnight or in a week. It takes time. None of us have sustaining changes unless it's done over time. We didn't get to where we were unless it takes into account the amount of time it took us to get this way. And it's not going to take any less time to change that direction and go another way. So that's another way of saying I don't believe in quick fixes. And I don't think there's a cultural issue, which comes up quite a bit. But I just think there needs to be some continuity in all people rowing in the same direction. And that starts with the administration, and then that goes to the coaches, and then, of course, that goes to the players. I would not fire the offensive coordinator, all right? I don't think in season that's an ideal situation unless, and none of us are behind closed doors, it's a toxic environment. If you've got an offensive coordinator and Coach Plow that's talking behind the head coach's back or criticizing players or giving up or other behaviors that are completely detrimental to getting better as a team, then he's got to go. I haven't seen those behaviors displayed. I do believe that the things that are going wrong on offense, not being able to run the ball, not being able to protect the passer at times, receivers not getting open, some plays getting blown up like screens, bubble screens by defenses, Hank holding onto the ball too long. You could call some of those coaching errors. You can call a lot of it trying to make something out of nothing. And I think that all the coaches are in on that, looking at what they have, and they're coming up with battle plans to get there. And Andy is trying to balance this plan so that it benefits the entire team. And I'm sure the offensive staff's just out there, how can I score points? So the compromises that have been made for the betterment of the team, even though, Tim may or may not agree with all of these changes. At the end of the season, he may move on. It may be mutual. I think his contract is up. But if there's toxic dynamics, then yes, I would say you need to make a change immediately. I think the offensive line and the rotation that they're going through with injuries is a problem. I do believe that there are enough red flags, even amongst the healthy guys, that they're not playing well together. Some of them aren't physical at the point of attack enough, and I think they've missed on some recruits. I do think that the entire team has lost confidence. And in my own life, I know when I struggle or don't do well in work-life issues or personal or tennis or whatever other endeavors, it takes a while to get that back, and you have to work at it and put yourself in winning situations. I can tell you this, the noise, as coaches and players put it, from outside the program coming through social media, radio, television, print, you name the medium, podcasts like this, that doesn't help. It's just more energy they have to commit to ignoring it or to looking at a more positive outcome for themselves than the other outcomes that frustration produces for fans or media or everybody else, which I think is all understandable. I do believe that had they made a change at quarterback during the game against UTEP, they may have had some more success in broken plays because there was enough plays breaking down through production issues or receivers not getting open where Hank isn't the escape guy the way Green is. And it gives them a better option. It's really lesser of two evils. And if there's another quarterback in the program that can do better than either Green or Hank, he'd be in there by now. And I've said that enough. I really believe that's the biggest problem, is that there isn't a quarterback in the program that can fix where they are now, because I can guarantee you that quarterback would be on the field. That's a challenge. I think that the overall talent level on this football team has had some challenges in retention. I think they got real lucky with Skinner coming back, for example, and they had the 6th year and the 5th year stuff through COVID that helped keep some guys around that maybe were some Band-Aids for some stuff. But it doesn't, you can look up and down the NFL draft list. You can look at all conference lists. The talent level of Boise State's down. It has been since in, the latter years of Brian Harson's tenure. I think Coach Harson and his staff went through a lot of changes. They had a lot of turnover, and that hurts recruiting. You have one coach in saying one thing, and the next thing he's gone, another coach comes in saying something else. So you're making up a lot of lost ground. And the Hawkins and Pete Cutter years with those, and even the early Harson years, had a lot of success because of all the continuity, and that is out the door. So I do think that the first class that Andy had, the last class that Harson had, and this one's too early right now, haven't produced the way they have in the past. And that combined with an offensive line injury situation, a lack of quarterback play, really all adds up. I think that the program can certainly return to success. I just am not convinced that that's going to come against, by Friday night against San Diego State and sustain itself past the San Diego State game. I do think, as they proved last year, they can have flashes of brilliance like a lot of teams can and do. But the sustained excellence of execution on offense, hard-nosed, bending, but not breaking type on defense, seems to be a little far away right now to me. I think we're a year or two away from that, and I don't know that they're going to just launch into a rebuilding program now, but these are really the kinds of times when you find out the most about your coaches and players, when they go through this kind of adversity. And they're learning about each other, and they're learning about where they are now, because these next couple of weeks will be critical for them to show that they can show up for each other, that they won't back talk and fight amongst themselves, give in to the negativity that surrounds the program now, and be weak. It's really difficult to go this other direction and not become bitter or hard-nosed or closed off. And that's not Andy Avalos' personality style. I think at times that has and does hurt Brian Harsin, where he has that ability. He has that dogged determination, and he is a dirt dog, and he is as mentally tough as they come. But the expense of that is relationships, because Brian won't invest in those necessarily unless there's an end game. And so that's the sacrifice that he has made, I believe, where if you listen to the noise that comes out about how it is to work in and around him or for him or so forth and so on, most of the complaints are about his relationships and that he doesn't treat people well. And that's the sacrifice he's willing to make to try to win football games. Not everybody's wired that way. So this is a long way of saying patience is what's needed. I don't want to add to the noise of firing and radical criticisms of players. I don't think that's productive. If I were in their shoes, hearing nothing is better than that, and having people show up and enthusiastically cheer for them. But I know it's tough to do that, and I get these are 2022 times where people are increasingly being asked to give money to players just so that they can continue to play, and different people take that in their own way. And so if they're going to give them money, they want to see more results. We're getting into a difficult time. Was this the worst loss in program history? Was this look, you think Appalachian State didn't have some great wins, and whoever they beat, the last 5 Power 5 teams, wasn't a horrible day for them? They're not exclusive here. This happens. The longer you stay in the sport, this is going to happen, and you accept it and move on, because the fact is the 3.5 hours last night, UTEP was the better football team. That's the fact. That's it. Now, will they be the best team if they played again next week or 5 weeks? That's up to both teams to determine. And so right now, was that a great win for UTEP? Well, based on Boise State's past and history, yes. What the hell is good? You can see what it's worth for Boise State. Nothing but expectations that are empty. It's about the day you play and the way you play. It's in the present. And that's where the value is for Boise State, is to just say, I can only control this right now, and they've got to tune out everything else. And so the more noise around them, the harder it is. I'll be interested to see what kind of leadership Jeremiah Dickey and Marlene Tromp provide at this time, because they're guys under fire with people who are emotionally reacting and very upset. And that's nothing new to Tromp, who's gone through all kinds of trouble herself. But supporting your coach or your coaches, your program, or your players can be pretty beneficial. You saw Dan Hawkins do that when he showed up in a Blue Turf Sports Idaho Press Tribune article supporting his former coaches and what they're being asked to do at Boise State, what they can do and who they are and all that. And so that counts. I think it counts. And if it's not Dickey and Tromp out in front of, hey, this football team's great, we're committed to this, we're doing the right things, we believe in this guy, and doing it with sincerity, if you don't do that, maybe there is something else going on here that none of us are aware of because we don't see or hear from those individuals too much, unless it's to thank people for giving or they're out in front of a parade almost. And tough times produce tough people. I think these are tough times. And there could be better days ahead. I just don't know when. I really don't. So that is the state of Boise State football today, right now. I think I wouldn't fire anybody. I hope that they can get better, but the proof is in the pudding, and they can only really build a fence around themselves and believe in themselves, because until they prove it on the field, that's not necessarily the way it's going to be. If they don't play well early against San Diego State, I'm sure they're going to hear it from fans or people in the stands who want to let them know that they're displeased with what they see. So we just hope for the best, and hopefully they can circle their wagons and tune out that noise. Thanks for tuning this in, though. Rate it, review it, pass it on. The Kingdom of Pod, I try to produce 1 or 2 a week or as news happens. So rate it, review it, and pass it along, and I'll talk to you next time.